The hook, 3 lines. The smell of burnt metal. A sound that comes out of your throat and ruins you, and then silence except for the violin case clattering on the floor. In less than a minute, a kid with a hoodie went from boarding pass to bleeding on a galley floor, and the woman who thought she could decide who belonged on that plane flipped his whole life inside out. You'll hear anger, you'll hear grief, and yeah, you'll hear how one man turned a private fury into a public reckoning. Act 1. The Quiet Kid and the Entitled Kingdom. Noah Carter looked like every awkward kid you've seen in an airport. Oversized hoodie, thrift store jeans, scuffed sneakers. But he carried something no one expected, an old Cremona violin in a carbon case, the kind of instrument that eats up rent checks and still asks for more. He was 17, heading to a conservatory audition in Prague, the first real crack at something he'd been living for, and his dad had said, "Get there, keep the case close, don't let anyone touch it." That's it. Simple instructions. Noah did what his dad said. On the other side of the jet bridge was Maris Hale, 30 years in the sky, head purser of Skycrest's premium cabin, salt and pepper hair pulled into a perfect bun, and a face that had learned to weigh people at a glance. The first-class cabin was her fiefdom. She decided who got the extra blanket, who got the wronged eyebrow raise. She'd learned to read a room, and in her book clothing told stories. Hoodie meant worry. Hoodie meant a problem. Noah walked the priority lane, and Maris stepped forward with that practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sir, priority boarding is for first-class ticket holders only," she said the sentence, a scalpel wrapped in sugar. Noah held out his pass. Row 1A, Priority Elite. The scanner bleeped green. The machine confirmed it. The system didn't lie. Maris looked at the printed name, then back at the hoodie, then at a man clutching a leather briefcase like a rosary. The briefcase man cleared his throat. Maris smoothed her uniform and said, "There must be a mistake." The mistake in her head wasn't paperwork, it was a ledger of assumptions. She told him the violin case had to be checked, that oversized bags couldn't stay in the cabin, that rules were rules. Noah said quietly, "It's an instrument. It goes in the overhead." He smiled like he was asking forgiveness. Her reply was a cornered animal smile, and she radioed ahead. Eyes on seat 1A. Keep a lookout. That's where the small cruelty begins, with the decision to make someone uncomfortable because you can. Act 2. Small humiliation, big disaster. Noah sat with his case overhead. He buckled in, put on headphones, tried to become water, and slip away. Maris watched him board, then told a junior flight attendant, a soft-spoken woman named Lizzie, to keep watching him. Lizzie shrugged. Noah had asked for orange juice and had been polite, but commands have a way of becoming prophecies. Planes run on routine, and Maris was a fanatic for control. Taxi lights on seat belts fastened. Maris marched down the aisle, popped the overhead, grabbed the case. Noah reached up to steady it. Their hands collided. It should have been nothing. It was a kid protecting something priceless. Maris made it a scene. She shrieked, "He assaulted me like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat," and in popped an air security officer from row 2, bulky, tired, the kind of man who had seen 10,000 incidents and decided to pick his battles. "No weapon," Noah said between breaths. "It's a violin." But words don't stick when a narrative has been fed. The officer grabbed Noah. The scuffle was clumsy, crowded, absurd. And then Maris did something nobody expected, or maybe everyone expected it, and nobody stopped her. She reached for the officer's stun device, and in a move born of panic or rage, it's hard to tell because they're twins, she fired. Probes flew, and electricity found the soft places. One struck Noah's cheek, one struck his left eye. "I can't give you the sound cleanly." It was not a scream so much as a rupture, the sound of a life tearing. Noah's body seized his face, contorted. Blood pooled through fingers that tried to cover a ruined orbit. The cabin smelled of burnt ozone and disbelief. Maris, panting, looked down as if she'd performed a heroic act. The traveler next to her raised a phone and filmed. That phone, the one Noah dropped, buzzed across the carpet with a single name on the screen, Dad. Lizzie, shaking, answered. "Thomas Hale." "Not the same. Hale different last name now." Noah's father was on the other end, voice wobbling from a meeting room to a wire of fury in one breath. "Keep him alive," he said, and then something colder. "Tell the person who did this. She's made the last mistake of her life." It wasn't a threat. You shrugged off. It was a promise for those who understand what fuel contracts and leverage can do. Act 3. The Counterpunch. Public Reckoning. Noah's father, Marcus Hale, changed the name, but keep the motive wasn't just another angry parent. He ran Ardent Fuel, a company that supplied the majority of North America's aviation kerosene. He didn't make speeches. He made infrastructure. He could with one call make a jet remain forever earthbound. He didn't want money. He wanted accountability, and he wanted change. Within hours, Skycrest's engines felt the cold. Terminals were told no credit fueling. Flights were delayed, then canceled. The boardroom in Skycrest shifted from spin to panic overnight, PR statements hand-wringing, searching for a way to buy their way out of disaster. The video of Noah's collapse was everywhere, feeds, timelines, pocket-sized cameras that made witnesses into juries. Maris's private messages, things she'd written when she thought she was talking to friends, surfaced ugly jokes, a pattern of seeing people as problems to be managed. The narrative hardened. This wasn't fear. It was prejudice made flesh. Courts moved faster when the whole world watches. Charges were filed, evidence stacked like kindling. The legal fight hurt Maris not because of a single mistake, but because her past behavior became a storyboard of intent. The jury saw the pattern. The doctor's report showed the optic nerve was destroyed, the retina cauterized by heat and current. Noah would never get his left eye back. The boy who had planned a solo in Prague now had therapy tremor in his left hand, a new life to build from ruins. But Marcus didn't stop at criminal justice. He turned economic levers. Skycrest, suffocated for cash, spiraled. Its stock crashed, investors jumped ship, and in a move that felt like both revenge and remediation, Marcus bought the carcass, the assets, at liquidation. Not to keep them flying, to use the bones for something else. He founded the Carter Conservatory, a music school in the old Skycrest HQ, scholarships for kids who look like Noah. Kids who wear hoodies, kids whose hands are calloused from work, but whose ears are gold. Noah, broken and stubborn, learned again. You don't need two hands to love music. He took to piano, the left hand for bass, the right for lyric, and he started composing. His first symphony was a bruise that turned into light, jagged, furious, and finally resolute. Call it blind justice or call it whatever you want. It was his language for what he'd been through. He learned that surviving isn't a neat sentence, it's a long composition. The end and the argument, Maris went to prison. Noah grew into an artist who smells of ozone and triumph. Marcus built schools and burned a business to make a point, and that's where people split. Was it justice that a billionaire crushed an airline to punish a single employee, or was it exacting necessary accountability on a system that tolerated daily small violences? Did the ends justify the means? Or did one kind of power simply replace another? I won't give you an answer wrapped in a bow. I'll only tell you what I know: prejudice can fit in a uniform, and a single decision can reroute dozens of lives. Power can punish, and power can rebuild. And sometimes the person who looks weakest on paper turns out to be the one who writes the last movement. Call to action. Strong. So tell me, where do you land on this? Should private wealth be used to force public consequences, or does that create a dangerous precedent? Have you seen someone judged by their clothes, their skin, or the way they breathe in a public space? What did you do? What didn't you do? Drop your story in the comments. Argue with me if you must. And if this hit a nerve, like and subscribe so we can keep pulling these moments apart together.